Delaware County sports historian Rich Pagano and yours truly, Jim Vankoski, once again back at Studio 21 for our monthly talk about sports legends of Delaware County relative to our museum located at 301 Ivan Avenue. And today, Rich, is very exciting because we're in the process of publishing a book for our 20th anniversary. We actually started our Sports Legends of Delaware County Museum in 2001, so 2020 will be marking our 20th anniversary.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. The book is going to be a great addition to our museum.
And we're really celebrating the guests that have come to our museum. That's to me, that's, I believe, the main purpose of our book is it's a big thank you for these guests that we'll be talking about. That never ask for anything. You know, nobody in our organization gets paid, either the board members or the guests that we have. So that's something that we can be proud of, I believe.
Yeah, and I think what's nice is they've all given us a piece of memorabilia from their careers, whether it be a jersey or something of that sort, and that really makes our museum.
It makes our museum, and I think it's going to help make our book because we have tremendous images taken by a Wayne photographer, as a matter of fact, George Rothacker,
right,
included in our book. There's over 100. There's got to be over 100 of these pieces of memorabilia. So that's something that we can all be proud of.
Yeah.
We started the talk by saying that it's our 20th anniversary, and we started having guests in the year 2002, 2003. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Some of the guests that we've had visit us way back when we first started in Avenue of the States, Chester, Pennsylvania, Museum of the History of Delaware County. And the first guest, one of the first guests that we had, if not the very first guest at our grand opening, was Jack McKinney. So I know that you know quite a bit about Jack McKinney, but before I turn it over to you, we always want to know what makes a Delaware County athlete a Delaware County athlete. And we're starting here with Jack McKinney. There's no question that Jack McKinney is a Delaware County athlete, and you can take it from there.
Yeah, well, Jack McKinney grew up in Chester and played sports and basketball, being his main sport, at St. James High School. And what was interesting, his coach was Jack Ramsey at St. James. And so then a lot of people don't realize that Jack McKinney went to St. Joe's on a track scholarship. He was an outstanding high jumper, and he ended up playing basketball there too. And his coach there was Jack Ramsey. And of course, McKinney, after he graduated, ended up coming back to coach at St. Joe's. Actually, he coached for a year at the Philadelphia Textile, which is now Jefferson University. But he came back to coach at St. Joe's, and then his mentor, Jack Ramsey, already had gone to the NBA with the Sixers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and Jack Ramsey met up with Jack McKinney met up with Jack Ramsey with the Portland Trailblazers in 1977. They won the NBA championship with Ramsey as the head coach and McKinney as his assistant. But McKinney has a tragic, really a tragic part of his career too, when he was in that horrible bicycle accident out in California. At that time, he was the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and Magic Johnson was a rookie that year, and it was a terrible fall he took on the bike, and it kind of ruined his career, and he lost that job with the Lakers. Paul Westhead, his assistant, took over. He did come back later and coach a couple teams. He was the NBA Coach of the Year in 1981 with the Indiana Pacers. But it's an outstanding career, but kind of tragic in a way too, with that injury.
And you talked about pieces of memorabilia. One of our outstanding pieces of memorabilia, although a lot of the Philadelphia 76ers fans don't appreciate it, we have a gift from Jack McKinney of that championship game in 1977, with him on the bench,
Right.
and Jack Ramsey kneeling here. So here you have two Delaware County sports personalities, we'll say, both coaching at St. James High School, and here they are coaching against the Philadelphia 76ers and winning the NBA championship. And that photograph is part of one of our behind-the-scenes story in our book. So it's, if nothing else, you get a chance to purchase our book, you'll be able to find out some more information about that behind-the-scenes story.
Yeah, and Jack Ramsey, of course, was a graduate of Upper Darby High School, so he was a Delco athlete too. But I think they really, those two kind of, they are Delaware County sports. I mean, they're real Delaware County people who at all those levels, high school, college, and then at the pros, coached together and won an NBA championship.
I mean, Jack's father was a policeman in the city of Chester for decades,
Right.
you know, so...
And quite a football player, too.
Well, we better move on to Bob Rigby. Bob Rigby was another guest that we had. I mean, we had some tremendous guests to start off our chapter 1 of our book. And Bob Rigby, we have a piece of memorabilia that's been on display since 2002 when he first came. Actually, 2002 when he first came.
Right.
And you might want to tell us a little bit about Bob and his professional career.
Yeah, Bob is a Ridley High School graduate, again, Delaware County, and he went to East Stroudsburg State College at the time. Now it's a university. And Bob, by the time he was a senior, he was a first-team All-American, got drafted in the first round by the Philadelphia Atoms, and had a great season. They won the championship that year. It was his rookie year, and he set all kind of records as a goalie. Later, he did play for the Los Angeles Aztecs. That's what this jersey is from, his playing days there in 1978, this Game 1 uniform here. But he also played for the New York Cosmos. What's an outstanding aspect of his career, soccer, they say, is the most popular sport in the world. And Sports Illustrated, which came out in 1954, did not have a soccer player on their front cover until 1973, and Bob Rigby ended up being that soccer player to be on the front cover after they had won the championship with the Philadelphia Atoms. So actually, he was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated before Pele, before all these great world soccer players, and that's just something that really stands out about his career.
And part of our book will include behind-the-scenes stories from Bob Rigby,
yeah.
you know, regarding Sports Illustrated, the cover, being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and his time with Pele.
Yeah. When he played with the New York Cosmos, he played with Pele, and Pele thought a lot of him, thought he was an outstanding goalie. He also had an incident where he was knocked out in a game, goaltending, and he was starting to choke, and supposedly the story goes that Pele came over and was able to pull his tongue up because he was choking. He had swallowed his tongue, and Pele pulled his tongue up and really saved his life.
Is that part of the story? Do you remember if Bob mentioned that at all when he was talking about his relationship with Pele?
Yeah, he has talked about that story. It's really interesting.
You know, it's I don't know. I'm going to say that Bob Rigby is an underrated athlete as far as Delaware County is concerned, although it's kind of hard for me to justify that. If you've been on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it's kind of hard to say you're underrated.
Right. I think he was playing a sport that at the time, back in the 60s in high school, and he was on the cover in 73, soccer wasn't a real popular sport in Delaware County. It wasn't football or basketball, baseball, even track and field. But it was without a doubt the most popular sport in the world, soccer. It's played in more countries than any other sport, supposedly.
Talking about the popularities of sports, the next guest that we had at our museum, and these were in chronological order as a matter of fact, was Augie Pantelis.
Yeah.
Now, boxing today, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think is nearly as popular as it was when Augie was in his prime. And Augie actually brought his robe, his trunks, his shoes, his gloves to put on display. And we've had those on display since his first visit in 2002, except for the one time when he said he's going to come out of retirement. He gives us a call and said, Jim, I hope you still have my attire because I'm coming out of retirement. Now, Augie at this time was 70 years of age. And we're going to see, a little bit later on, we're going to see a video regarding Augie. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at it right now. 5-minute video by Brad Now on the Broomall Bomber.
Can I have the Italian chicken with American cheese?
With American
And no pork, John.
No pork?
It's lunchtime at the Media Courthouse in Delaware County, a place where an ordinary hot dog just won't cut the mustard.
It's like a chicken scallopini sandwich.
Helping to serve up a noontime nosh is a guy that has more bounce in his step than most guys half his age.
Sausage. Quarter pound, I think it's more than a quarter pound.
And oh yeah, he still has his left hook.
I hold my own.
Yes,
In fact, I gotta hold back sometimes. Home of the brave.
Augie Pentelis survived the Philadelphia boxing wars that raged throughout the 1970s. The former featherweight carried a tough nickname.
Yeah, the Broomall Bomber.
And a darn good record. He was 28-6 with 20 knockouts. And today at the age of 70, he's looking to put another notch on his belt and his name in the books.
Good left hook by Vankoski, combinations galore.
The first thing I remember is he had quick hands. He really did. He was really fast hands. And then for a guy his size, he could pack a punch.
No sport is like boxing, taking punch after punch after punch after punch after punch. You have to, that builds up, you have to build that up.
While most men his age spend Saturday mornings over eggs and pancakes, he's
That's
busy
it, more
teaching
side,
kids
that's it.
how to fight and preparing for
The
his.
other way.
The Broomall Bomber is stepping back in the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Extreme Entertainment Press Conference.
Bad habits and bad decisions forced Pentelis out of the ring for nearly 6 years. But faith, family, and friends helped him fight his way back.
Gonna make boxing history, sports history. He's a legend, 70 years old. The Greek bomber, Augie Pentelis.
In the back, and you're nervous in the locker room before you go out. It's scary. But once I was in the ring, no fear. No fear. I don't care who I fought.
I thought he was going to have a short career, but he fooled me. He had a lot of fights, won them by knockouts, lasted longer than I thought he would.
His opponent might be half his age, and the event a little more promotion than pugilistic. But when Pentelis steps into the ring, it's fight time. He's hoping history is on his side.
Oh yeah, I hope for the best for him, just for old time's sake.
One punch at a time. Nothing's yet.
And who
That's it,
knows,
thank you.
this 70-year-old combination boxer hot dog man might pull something special off his menu. Something we could all relish.
What I like to fight is Mayweather in a phone booth. First one out wins.
Peppers, onions, sauce, chicken, cheese.
The whole mishmash.
I hope you all appreciate that video that was produced by Brad Now We certainly do when we take a look at it, because Augie's one of my favorite individuals.
Yeah.
And when the first time he came, matter of fact, there's a picture in the book of you and him doing a little sparring.
Yes.
And he was, at the time, up there in years, and his hands were still lightning quick. And I can remember Stan Hockman, when he was talking about Augie, what he remembered most of all about his fighting career was how quick his hands were. So Augie's a lot of fun. We just had him in our 2019 Cavalcade of Stars, and we hope to see him many more times to come. Would you like to add anything about Augie?
Just a great personality, and I think at one time he was one of the outstanding boxers in Philadelphia and even in Atlantic City. He was, when you went to one of his fights, you saw a fight. He had quite a punch too, and very, very powerful guy.
As a matter of fact, you're in our book. That's available it'll be available online on our website as well. It's www.sportslegendsofdelawarecounty.com. But Chuck Hansen, he lists the 10 top professional fighters in the history of Delaware County, and Augie's one of the 10.
Yeah, Augie's in the top 10, yeah.
So we'll move on from Augie now, and next will be Gertie Dunn. Now, for those that have been following our interviews, we had a whole segment on Gertie Dunn, and we talked about what a tremendous athlete she was. She played in the movie of A League of Their Own. She didn't play in the movie A League of Their Own, but the movie on the League of Her Own, she was the Rookie of the Year, and she was also in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame and the Field Hockey Hall of Fame. The only player where that has happened. She's the only player that's been inducted into both Field Hockey and Lacrosse Hall of Fames.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really great about our book, the tales in there, and of course you have a nice tale about Gertie Dunn, and because she also learned how to fly a plane and was a pilot and had her own plane, and you almost got up in that plane one day.
Yeah, that was, and that's been the subject of her demise. She was actually killed in a plane crash where she was the pilot.
Right.
So that was a tragic ending, because she is somebody, my wife has a favorite saying that you exist as long as you are remembered. Gertie Dunn will be remembered certainly as long as we resist, because she was the type of individual, 5 minutes with her and you thought that she was a lifelong friend. She just put you at ease. And she was a very good salesperson too as well. So our book has a couple pages on Gertie, on her field hockey, lacrosse, and naturally the time that she spent in the League of Their Own. All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was the name of that league. And when people say, well, Gertie, who played you? She always could get a kick saying, Madonna played me.
Yeah, right. So I think that's one of the reasons why people need to get this book eventually, because of the tales and the stories. And you have a very good one about Gertie, and they'll have to get the book to read that.
And then we go to another female athlete that visited us in 2003, Sue Stahl. Now, Sue Stahl is not a household name among those people that aren't involved in women's lacrosse, but when we were trying to come up with athletes to make up our first card set, which there was 50 in our first initial card set, no matter what lacrosse player you talk to, a women's lacrosse player you talk to, they all said Sue Stahl.
Yeah,
Like nobody else was even close to Sue Stahl as being somebody that you wanted to represent lacrosse in Delaware County.
Yeah, the Upper Darby graduate, she was actually picked as the lacrosse coach of the century. I mean, she coached all those girls, and correct me if I'm wrong, how many girls from our county are in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame?
Well, there's over 20.
Yeah, I was going to say 21.
Yeah, there's over 20. And she also coached 9 that won World Cup gold medals.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of important because women's lacrosse is not an Olympic sport.
No, it's not.
So how's that slipped up, I don't know, but it's not Olympic. Field hockey is, but women's lacrosse is not. And we've had Sue Stahl, we've had more than 9 gold medal winners, but Sue actually coached 9 of them. And there's a behind-the-scenes story in her book by Karen Borby, Karen Emis Borby, who writes a story on when 7 of the 9 came back to the Museum of the History of Delaware County and celebrated with Sue Stahl just their whole history of women's lacrosse in Delaware County.
Well, I think one of the sport has to be played on a certain amount of continents for it to be
I did not know
selected, as an Olympic sport, and lacrosse is not. But field hockey is. And of course, men's field hockey was in the Olympics before women, too. They've been playing field hockey for years.
Is men's field hockey still an Olympic sport?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot by viewing this statement from our county sports historian, Rich Pagano. I always like to mention that. You give me Rich Pagano and Harry Chaikin, and you can have the other 550,000 people, and we'll beat you in any trivia sports contest regarding Delaware County athletes there is. Next, we go to Mary Ellen Clark. Mary Ellen Clark, a Radnor High School graduate, won a bronze medal in 2 Olympics, the 92 in Barcelona and the 96 in Atlanta. And she came to visit us one day at the museum. We have the great photograph of her. It's the only piece of memorabilia that we purchased. Everything else has been donated or is on loan to us from the athletes or the athletes' families. So Mary Ellen Clark is certainly an athlete that should be remembered a long time, and that photograph that we have of her in the book is something that's a real keepsake.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention also that her specialty is platform diving, not springboard diving, because you have both in the Olympics. And she also had a physical condition. I guess she had vertigo too that caused some problems in her career, but she was able to overcome that and become one of the best divers in the world.
Matter of fact, I think if I remember correctly, in 1996, when she won her bronze medal, she was the oldest lady to have won a diving medal at that time.
Medal, yes, at the time. I don't know if that's still a record, but
so we haven't seen Mary Ellen Clark recently. So hopefully, if she's viewing this, or if a friend of hers is viewing this, maybe she can get in touch with us at our location, our phone number, which is up on the screen, 610-909-4919. And we'd love to have Mary Ellen Clark back when we introduce our book. It would be great to have. One of the things that we're going to be trying to do is get all the individuals that are in our book to autograph a copy of the book for us to have at the museum. So that would be awfully nice if we could touch base with Mary Ellen Clark again.
Yeah. She lives in Florida.
The last I've known, she was coaching either Amherst or Williams College in one of the New England states. So where she's located now, perhaps somebody can help us out and contact us and give us an idea, because we would love to get back in touch with Mary Ellen Clark. Now, the next guest that we had in 2003, we have no problem getting in touch with. I mean, I talk to Bo Ryan almost on a weekly basis. I mean, because we've been that friendly way back in Chester Biddy League days, and there's a couple behind-the-scenes stories regarding that. But Bo Ryan has the highest winning percentage in the lifetime of Big Ten basketball. And he just sent this when we had our 2019 Cavalcade of Stars. He was not able to make it. He's either living in Wisconsin or California. But he did send us this piece of memorabilia that will appear in our book. His record was 172 and 68, a 717 winning percentage. To me, that's an outstanding achievement that certainly tells you what we're all about. We want to honor excellence. And that's excellence. We're talking about University of Wisconsin, Division I, Big Ten basketball. He took his team to the Final Four 2 years in a row. And in 2003, when he visited us, one of his assistant coaches was Tony Bennett. And Tony Bennett, tell us about Tony Bennett.
Yeah, Tony Bennett became the head coach at Virginia, and they won the national championship. Was that last year?
Last year, yeah.
And what can you say? Here's one of the assistants that happened to be in our museum when we were in Chester at that first location, and he went on to be a head coach and win a national championship.
And the thing we think that we really appreciate, Bo, is that we've had 4 different locations for our museum. And one was initially in Chester, and naturally we just talked about his visit there. And then we moved to Chad's Ford, and later sessions we'll be talking about that. He was a visitor there. And then we moved to the Granite Run Mall, and he was a visitor at the Granite Run Mall. And in 2017, that was his most recent visit to our museum in Radnor, and he was a visitor there. So we really appreciate his loyalty to Sports Legends of Delaware County Museum, and it's somebody that should be included in our book, and he certainly is. So a little bit before we close this area, we have a lot more guests to talk about, and we can pick that up starting with Paul Harrison on our next visit. But we would like to say that this book is due to be published either somewhere between December the 7th and December the 14th. We've been working for the last 20 years. Because in 2001 is when that initial site was established, and here it'll be 2020 very shortly. So I'm going to say that we've been working on this book for 20 years, and hopefully the last 2 weeks we're in a rush to get to the end, and we talked about that, Rich, on the way up. So proofreading and making sure everything is correct is very difficult, because we don't want to certainly put out a poor product. And this is going to be a hardcover book.
Yeah, it's going to be an outstanding book, and I don't know where all the time went, but 20 years went by pretty quickly.
When we just got through talking about Jack McKinney, Bob Rigby, Augie Pantelis, Gertie Dunn, Sue Stahl, Mary Ellen Clark, Bo Ryan, and it seems as though that this just happened yesterday. You know, we talked about Mary Ellen Clark. You know, we haven't seen her for for a number of years. When she was our guest back in 2001, 2002, 2003, and those years have just gone by so rapidly, and I'm sure they've gone by just as quickly for the athlete themselves as us. I know the book is going to give us an opportunity to touch base with a lot of the athletes that we haven't seen in the number. Sue Stahl's another one. We haven't really talked to Sue Stahl in a long while. So we're anxiously looking forward to this book being the catalyst for us to have a resurgence of some of the athletes that had visited us in the past to come and visit us again. Because our museum, if you haven't seen our museum at 301 Ivans Lane in Radnor, you're really missing the boat, because the photographs that we have, the memorabilia that we have, it's just first rate.
And this book really gives you a good idea of what's in the museum, with the photographs of all the memorabilia that have been donated or loaned to us. It's going to be an outstanding book. I'm looking forward to it.
So we just had a half an hour show, Rich. It seems like it goes by awfully fast. I remember when I first started teaching, we're both teachers of 35 years or more, they would always say, plan for twice as much as you think you're going to need.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what we do here, because we only got through half of the guests that we had at the Museum of the History of Delaware County in Chester.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that Bo Ryan, when you said he got to the Final Four, he actually got to the final game, too, playing Duke for the national championship. And that doesn't happen to every coach. They did not win the game, but to get to the final game.
Don't mention that, because Bo is going to be seeing this, and that's something that as a matter of fact, John Smith, the late John Smith, was a coach at Strathaven High School. And Nether Providence, the last year for Nether Providence, won the state championship. The second year, the year after that, they came in second. And for years, he still couldn't watch the end of the game. So I bet Bo's thinking the same type of thing.
Well, it was an outstanding accomplishment.
Okay, thank you. And come to visit us.
I didn't know it was